how do we make our playing more engaging, more musical, and really interesting for people to listen to? I'm going to give you 5 ideas to put into your practice and your performance that are going to help you really lift that performance and make your playing more engaging. Number 1, you need to appear confident, even if you're not. You need to visualize yourself as a fabulous flute player or whatever instrument you're playing, and that you're totally in command of the performance. It might just work. Nobody wants to watch a performance where they feel nervous or anxious for the performer. They want to feel completely relaxed. So even if you have butterflies inside, keep them to yourself. With experience, you'll know how to hide them. See if you can appear as confident as possible. Number 2, have a think about listening to somebody give a talk or a speech, and how engaging these can often be, or not. You definitely don't want to see somebody gazing at their feet and speaking just in this area. You want them to talk into the room and send what they've got to say out into the room. And it's the same for us as musicians. Try to lift your head out of your music stand. By this stage, you're going to know your music so well, or make it your business to know your music so well, that you can lift your eyes up occasionally, or at least stand a little bit further away so you're not using it as a crutch. Even when you're playing softly, try to picture sending the sound out to an audience that's much further away. So often when we practice, we're by ourselves and we forget to send the sound further than this area. So imagining yourself in a big space and playing to an audience far away will help you to project everything that you're doing. Number 3, make sure your content is good. You've chosen your piece, or you've been given your piece, and you have to sell this to your audience. So whether you like that piece or not, you have to play it like you absolutely love it. You know it inside out, so that you can concentrate on the delivery of the message of that piece. So making sure that you've really done your practice and you're not going to be worried about tripping up over the finger technique of a particular bar or hitting a high note or whatever. Make sure that work is done beforehand. Number 4, let's go back to our speech. Words, sentences, and impact. If we think about what we've got to communicate to our audience, we have notes and we have phrases and we have detail. So firstly, are all the notes audible to the listener? I know it seems a bit silly to say that. Of course the notes are there, or we think they're there, but maybe in some of the faster passages we are a little bit careless with some of the notes or the evenness of them. So checking that everything is actually there that the composer has written in terms of the notes or whatever is very useful. Record yourself if needs be, but be very present in your practice to make sure that every note is there. It's got a beautiful tone in it, the tone that you want to put into that note, so that you can then begin to construct your sentences or your musical phrases. So we look at our phrases, and this is where we make sense out of all of our notes. And it needs to have rise and fall, not always in the same shape. They need to have a different message depending on what the piece is. Sometimes we have something that's a very definite full stop, a cadence or whatever, or sometimes it's a questioning phrase or it's an excitable phrase or whatever. Are you making sense of that musical phrase, and at least even knowing where these phrases are and identifying them? We would do that with breaths in a wind instrument. So your breath has to make perfect sense within your sentence. Of course, I went to the shops today to buy a loaf of bread. Doesn't make any sense. So make sure that your breaths work with the music. Yes, you can breathe in the middle of a phrase, but you have to make it part of that phrase. And it's a very considered decision to do that. Don't be taking a breath because you've run out of air. Practice where your breaths are, practice them into the music so that they're natural and efficient as well. Impact. Impact is about the detail. If you look at your music, you will have accents, staccatos, slurs, you'll have Italian terms potentially, you'll have all sorts of descriptions. And this helps to bring the music alive, like it would do if you were talking. You might shout some notes for impact. You might speak very, very softly. You might speak smoothly or lay something down. So all of these exist in music. So the detail is what really lifts a piece of music. Don't let bad technique dictate the details. So for instance, on the flute, our high notes are louder, of course. If you've got a high note that's loud, is it loud because that makes sense in the phrase, or is it loud because you can't play it quietly? So making sure that your technique is really able to present the music as you would want it to be. Sometimes I imagine playing it on a different instrument, so that how would I expect to hear it on a piano, for instance? How would I like it musically to be? Number 5, experience. No, that doesn't mean that you can only play musically and engagingly if you're old. It means that you have to put all of this characterization into your daily practice or your rehearsals. There is no way that you can turn it on for a performance. It's too much. We've got too much to think about. Bed down your notes and rhythms, and then really work at the characterization and the imagery of your pieces. And that way you'll get them to be more vivid, and you can expand them. You can be more creative as well. So thinking back to speeches and people who are talking in public, we all know people who know their stuff and have got an awful lot to say. But do we want to listen to them? Think about your playing. Get your playing in shape and make sure that your audience wants to hear what you've got to say.